Okay. All right. So welcome everyone. My name's Aaron. So welcome to what I like to call Unchained. So we're essentially freeing ourselves, getting out of the system, that type of stuff. So today I want to really just kind of create another platform where we can essentially create a bit of clarity, so that people understand what we're trying to do and to create a better world. And so I think it's very important, the more of us that have conversations talking about this, and we can really narrow in what we need to do, so we can move forward with confidence and ease, and not have to worry about any repercussions. Okay, that's a big thing. So obviously, yeah, I'm kind of on Zoom and I'm on live. Live is a new thing. It just kind of just felt like the right time to just kind of do this and test it out. So, but I like the idea of having it on Zoom too, so people can basically interact and can chat with you and get questions answered that way as well. Moving forward, welcome everyone again. So I've been studying sovereignty for the better part of 21 years, and it's kind of been that itch I just can't quite scratch until the last few years, when I've just really narrowed down what it means to actually be free and to be sovereign. And so fortunately, I moved to America 14 years ago, and I was able to find literally the blueprint for the entire world of what our government should be. Thank God for the founding fathers. Anyway, but in that whole process, I really want to talk about what sovereignty really is, because when we say sovereignty, we throw it around a lot, but it's the ultimate freedom in all areas of your life. And so in the legal sense, sovereignty is really, I guess, a place of status and standing where you have equal, I guess, I'm not saying rights, but equal standing to a monarch, a king, a queen. So essentially, you are a king and queen in your own right when you have reclaimed your sovereignty. And so here in America, well, in the world actually, sovereignty essentially can only be bestowed or it can be inherited. Okay. So fortunately for us, the foundation of what the founding fathers created meant that we all can basically inherit our sovereignty, okay, from them, which is amazing. Okay. So sovereignty, that's what we're really after. And so we are working many different angles to really encompass that, because being free is one thing, but being the last little missing piece is probably financial freedom. And that's something we're working on too with our new banks, but we can get to that later. That's another conversation. Okay. So before we get started, I need to talk about the term that gets thrown out so much. And whenever I hear it, I'm always, okay, we need to keep clarifying this. And that term is basically sovereign citizen. Okay. It's an oxymoron. And so people just throw that around like it's going out of fashion. So for everyone's, sorry guys, people are messaging me and stuff like that. So for everyone's information, it's an oxymoron. So two words that mean completely different, that should not go together. Okay. It's like saying, oh yeah, you're left, right. Okay. Well, what do you mean? It's like up, down. So sovereign, meaning of sovereign, freedom. Okay. Citizen, to be of service. So you can't be free and of service at the same time. It's like saying you're a free prisoner. It doesn't quite work. Now, so I guess my point is, people use it a lot. So just kindly explain to them it's an oxymoron. They don't go together. And so it essentially came from a 3-letter agency propaganda thing that wanted to put it out there. And again, it's all about wording. So if you claim you're that, then I don't understand the game. Now, what is the game?
Why is she fighting with me right now?
Oh, Erica, you might have to mute. Can I do that? Hot mic.
Yeah, you.
Okay, let me mute everyone. How do I mute everyone? Okay, give me a sec. Yeah, there's a lot going on, people. So, okay, give me a sec. Okay, yeah. Thank you, everyone. If you can mute yourself, that'd be great. Yeah. Again, lots going on. Okay, so the game. Going back to the game. So the game is the meaning of the words. And so the entrapment into the system is essentially words. And so for example, person. Okay, it's thrown out quite a bit by people everywhere. Like when you say person, you think you're referring to the living man, living woman, but in actual fact, they changed the meaning of the word person to being a dead fictitious entity. So if someone asks you in court, are you the person named such and such? They're talking about a corporate franchise that has your name. It's not actually you, okay? And so by doing that, they've created a like a little scenario where you're giving consent that you claim that you're not alive, okay? And so that's kind of the game when it comes down to it. And ultimately, it all comes down to jurisdiction, okay? Game is the meaning of the words, but jurisdiction is basically the big play. And here's why. Because jurisdiction, what I'm talking about is the acronym law, land, air, water. Okay, so land jurisdiction, air jurisdiction, water jurisdiction. So in this game that we're playing, it's like they're either trying to get you out of the jurisdiction you're supposed to be in, or they're just trying to confirm that you're definitely out of it. And so what the jurisdiction is you're supposed to be in is the land and soil jurisdiction. That's where the living men and women should reside. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, yeah, I'm definitely alive. Shouldn't I be in the land jurisdiction? And I'm like, well, yes, you should be. And you were for the first 3 weeks of your life until essentially the birth certificate was registered in a probate court. And so from that point, unfortunately, your good name has essentially been stolen and been trafficked into the land of the dead, away from the land of the living, which is the land jurisdiction, by this birth certificate. Okay, so just as a little side note, the birth certificate, it's not all bad because it proves that you were actually born on your native state, which is where you inherited your sovereignty. But it's also proof of the fraud. So we don't want to authenticate our birth certificate with another country because you're essentially giving up your birthright and essentially becoming stateless. So yes, it is proof of the fraud, but it's also proof of your inheritance as well and what you're owed. Okay, so with this birth certificate, it's essentially giving away your birthright, your estate, your assets, all your unalienable rights, and your guarantees and your exemptions. It gives it all up. And so, the biggest illusion is that we actually have rights. And it's actually more like privileges. And as we can see, the last couple of years, we've seen our privileges basically get wiped off the board pretty quick. So that is definitely a big issue. So the reality is, when it really comes down to it, the simple fact is, when that birth certificate is registered, you essentially become the property of a corporation. Not one corporation, but two. Two corporations, they're foreign corporations and they're not American, okay? So when we say US citizen or citizen of the United States, that's the corporations that are really not American, that are residing in District of Columbia. Okay, so, and don't be too hard on yourself. We're talking about 6 generations of fraud and deception. So it's not just something that, it just happened yesterday. So if you're just kind of becoming more awake to this, then give yourself some grace. It's okay, because they've literally been substituting the real thing for a fake foreign thing, okay, for this entire time. Now, what it comes down to is they're all contracts, okay? So our main goal here is to sever these contracts and come back to land and soil jurisdiction. And we do that by correcting our political status and then rebutting these assumed contracts. And then essentially joining our state assembly. Because the cool thing is we already have the system to not only regain our birthright, but also replace our current governmental system. One that has been proven to work by the Founding Fathers, and one that is already being reconstructed in all 50 states. And that is the American States Assemblies. That is our only lawful government, the American States Assemblies. It's unincorporated and it's the real thing, okay? The Founding Fathers had this running from 1776 to 1781 flawlessly, and it was called a federation, not a republic. It was called the federation, okay? That's what our lawful government is. And they're basically the spokesperson for the states in the international realm. And the foundation's essentially members are the sovereign union states, the land and soil jurisdiction states, okay, which is Nevada, Texas, New York, places like that. That's where we inherit our sovereignty from. So this type of government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's not of the corporation, by the corporation, for the corporation. Because let's face it, everything that you see as authority now is essentially corporation, has an EIN number. And so therefore it has a profit margin that it has to hit quarterly or yearly. And that profit will always come first before your rights and your exemptions and your guarantees. Okay, so we don't want anything that is basically a corporation, for-profit corporation running anything. That's where we're going to get in trouble, and that's where we have got in trouble. So the founding fathers, the American, and what they created is literally the blueprint for the entire world and what the government will essentially be. And so, just another hot mic. Sorry, guys. There we go. Gotcha. Okay. So, all right. So this blueprint, it really comes down to one key thing, and that's self-governance. Okay. So people need to essentially take the responsibility that a better future is going to come from them taking responsibility, and no one is going to basically save you. There's no savior. It's basically on our shoulders. So it's all of us staying together. So what that looks like is we get our house in order, we correct our status, we reclaim our children back from the state, and then we basically go to work, because it's going to take all of us. Basically fixing our family, our friends, our state, our nation, and then ultimately that's where the point we're going to have a much better future. It's all going to take all of us doing our part to bring in a better future. All for one, one for all. That saying actually, become famous by the Musketeers, but actually is a very ancient saying. And so, again, united we stand, divided we fall. So that's the main thing. So as long as we keep going in this direction together, I think we can really lock in on the best possible action to take and how to do that, and really look after our family and our future. So that's the main thing. Okay, so that being said, what's happening today? So I got some really cool people on, some good friends of mine that have corrected their status, because I want you guys to really get a sense of what it's like for people going through the system, and so getting out of the system, sorry, and what that looks like for them, and what their roles are, and what they've stepped up to do, and so you can hear from some other people. I think it's important for that. And so, yeah, what you're basically going to be hearing is like how long they've been a national for, what their role in the assembly basically is, and then just maybe some things about their journey that they feel like they would essentially like you to hear, and that would be beneficial to hear. So after that, we're going to do some questions. So there'll be two ways of asking questions. So you can either ask it on Zoom, which you'll raise your virtual hand, and then I'll basically unmute you, and we can go that way. And then, or if you're watching live, then just type it in the comments, and we'll get those. I'll ask those questions for you, and yeah, I can kind of palm it off to our guests and whoever wants to answer that. It's gonna be fun. So anyway, without further ado, let's start off, because actually I haven't told them who's going first, but let's start off with you, Quinn. Yeah, you're first up, brother. So let me just go to Quinn. There we go. So everyone, this is Quinn. So it's one of my good mates. We're actually performers here in Las Vegas. So we've been talking this stuff backstage for quite a while, and so he's one of the man's man. He's fitness coach, all types of things. He's very intelligent guy. So brother, so introduce yourself, and then let me know. Yeah, have a chat.
Awesome, for sure. Real quick, Aaron, where are you doing the live at?
Live?
It's not popping. Yeah, it's not popping up on your Facebook at all.
No, so it's on Instagram.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Cool. Hey guys, I'm Quinn. I am part of the state of Nevada. I'm in Nevada. I'm part of the state of Nevada out here with Aaron. I corrected my status just under a year ago. It'll actually be a year in October, so that's exciting. for kind of my role with the whole community in the assembly is basically at the moment now, I'm just a really big advocate. I introduce as many people as I can to Aaron and Katya, of course, as well, just for their knowledge, their ability, and all around their support and this love for people. They're really amazing if you haven't met them in person yet. So, so I kind of got started off with my journey. This again, I've been talking with Aaron backstage for about 3 years, and it's kind of the more he talked and the more he opened his mouth, the more you just kind of see how true the civilization around us really is. And I kind of like to make jokes with my friends and stuff backstage about how they accepted the blue pill, and we're kind of on the other side of that. So it's but when you start to dive in and you see the stuff that Aaron posts and you see the things that he talks about and how passionate he talks about it, the fact that this Australian man knows more about American history than 95% of America is really fucking cool and kind of sad for our educational system, to be honest. So, but once you start peeling back the layers, you can see the corruption. You can just see how how fucked up it really is for us. The biggest thing that I get a lot of people saying, I've gotten threats from close friends or people who thought we were friends, about trying to turn us into terrorists and all that stuff and everything. I've actually had a shared experience with Aaron about someone who we both thought were kind of cool and friends of ours and stuff, just spouting out nonsense and, doing their Google search of what everything is and trying to scare us and all that stuff. But, the hardest thing is you're going to have people who aren't ready to listen, and it can be very irritating. Aaron, you experienced this last a couple nights ago, actually, with me and one of our close friends going neck and neck about it. It can be irritating. Friends, loved ones, family members, if they don't understand or they're not ready to hear or listen to what you have to say, if they're not ready to peel back the onion, it can cause some friction between you. The biggest thing I have to say about that is just be patient. You can't blame them too much just for the way that people are indoctrinated into their lives and the rules of the system. I've had no troubles, no issues at all. I got my passport in 9 days after filing. Literally 9 days, paid the regular fees and everything, brand new passport, all fancy, everything's correct on it. So no trouble getting a passport. Aaron actually just helped me out with some summons stuff for the courthouses and stuff. So it's we're fighting back things that just shouldn't be. So yeah, it's been an awesome journey, and I'm actually happy able to meet some like-minded people finally. So of course I know Nicole and Aaron and Katya. Laura, I know of you. I don't think we ever personally met, so but I know of you quite well. So it's good the community is growing and the information is getting out there. And I think within the next, this is just my personal opinion from what's going around. I think within the next 5 years, the people are actually going to put their fucking foot down finally. This country's kind of a big shit show with everything going on. So I think we're about ready to hit that 250-year marker and just say fuck it. So yeah. If you guys have any sort of questions or anything for me that I might be able to elaborate on, please ask. Aaron is definitely a lot more knowledgeable and has the gifted tongue for all this. So but yeah, I've had no major problems. I even got my letters from the IRS when I decided, when I told them that we weren't paying taxes anymore. So proof of everything, and the proof is in the pudding. So if you fill out your paperwork properly, which you have the right guide to do that with and stuff, nothing's bad going to happen to you. FBI is not going to knock on your door. You're not going to get kicked out of the country or put in jail. So you're good to go.
Awesome, brother. That's so good. Yeah, I think it's all about planting seeds. A lot of people have essentially this ego they have to no, not in a bad way, but you have to realize that you've been swindled, and that's a hard pill to swallow for most people. So yeah, so that's why all you do is plant seeds and just give people grace. They will come around eventually, and there will be signs, and then that they won't be able to ignore it anymore. So thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. So
always
good. All right. So, all right. So let's go. Let's start off. Carrie, you on there? You joined us. I think you joined in.
Hello, I'm here.
Hey, Carrie. So Carrie's she's one of the first people I've helped through, with their paperwork originally, like about a year ago, it'd be about a year. So she's a great coach. She's a beautiful person. I love her so much. So she's in Texas. And so I'm really excited for her to share with you because she's really doing great things. So Carrie, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this call because your presence here is so needed and loved and valued. And we're just thrilled that if you're here just learning, that you'll stick around and, find a place for yourself in this process because we are making history here. And yeah, so my husband Paul and I came on about a year ago, and Aaron helped us. I met Aaron through a mutual friend, and I was having trouble, getting in touch with the Texas Assembly, the people, that were here at the time. And Texas has really gone through some growing pains lately, but we're working through all of that very, very thankfully. But I was very grateful that my husband was ready to do this. It's funny because he had been listening to some guy named Derek Johnson, and I think Anna has written a few articles about him, but Paul had been following Derek Johnson on Telegram. He's got this Telegram channel called Rattle Trap 1776 or something like that. And, so when I started, looking into the American State Nationals and reading Anna's articles and learning, and I decided, okay, it's time. And I had that conversation with him. He was like, yeah, oh yeah, we need to do that. I was like, yes, because the rest of our family thinks that we're batshit crazy. Yeah, I have a twin sister, and she is my best friend, and she is still, she is still really pulling for Donald Trump to come in and swoop in and, and save us and be the savior that we need. And, so she still believes in all of that. And boy, if I start even talking about this stuff, she's like, her eyes roll in the back of her head, and she's just like, Carrie, shut up. I'm like, okay, you're not ready to hear this. But yeah, it's just like Quinn was saying, some people just aren't ready to hear it yet, but it seems like the ones who are, just something has just connected in their brain, and they can't get enough. So we are really looking to find those people and bring them in because we have so much work to do. And sometimes it just feels daunting. Sometimes you just sit there and look at the mess and go, are we too late? But we're not. And the way we're going to do this is people waking up and people saying, no more of this bullshit. The IRS thing, that is the easiest thing. That's the easiest part. Don't be afraid of them. That's the easiest thing that you can do. Now, untangling your property taxes, they're a whole mafia. Our state governments are a freaking mafia. So there's a very careful process to follow. You want to do that correctly because you don't want them showing up on your doorstep with guns and telling you that you have to leave your own property. So that's a careful process to follow. But my role here in Texas, I have volunteered as the interim justice. And I say interim because I'm like, if somebody more qualified and suitable for this role would like to step up, I'll be happy to be in the background doing research and, getting the handbooks together and all of that, because, I don't really fancy myself in a position of spotlight. I'd rather kind of be in the background supporting, but we need our courts set up. We really, in order to really get our legs under us, we've got to have our 4 pillars set up. And part of having the courts set up is you got to have a justice. So I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'll do it. We all have something that we have to do. So that's pretty much what I've learned along the way. And what we have going on here in Texas is we are helping several people that have had run-ins with the cops, been violently taken to jail over having quote fictitious tags on their vehicle. One of our 74-year-old members was brutalized by a police officer, and I think the cop was actually trying to accidentally kill him. So we've been helping a few members that are dealing with court situations and things like that, and that's a really good place for me to kind of suss out, okay, here is their law, their codes and their statutes. What is the difference between what they are foisting upon us and what our common law is? Okay, what is common law? Where do I find common law? And so I've been studying Brett Winter's books as well and kind of following him. But y'all, I have a long way to go. I've just been in this for about a year now, and I'm absorbing it like a sponge. But it's, it's like I'm 50 years old now, 51 years old now, and I managed to get all of this way in my life without a proper education in any of this. They kept us all in the dark and ignorant. So we all have a lot to learn, and we just need to band together and get this work done. And the more of us that stand up, the more people are going to wake up. They're going to stop being fearful and weak. And, the boogeyman's going to come get us. No, none of that. We're stronger in numbers, and we can do this. We have to do this. This is our 1776 moment. We printed up some cards. They're like the length of a brochure, and some postcards that I carry with me wherever I go. So I can just pull one of those out, and it's, got pictures on it, and, it's real easy to follow. But the title of it is, "This is a rescue mission." And whenever I, meet somebody, encounter somebody out there in the wild, I have one of those, and I can just pull it out and say, "Here you go." It's got the websites on it and all of that. So, I mean, that's just kind of what we're up to. We're just trying to cooperate and get things going and keep it moving along. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Carrie. That was perfect. That was amazing. Yeah, you're doing some amazing things. Like they've had to deal with the border, the whole border issue too.
Yes.
Big thing on Texas. Because when the power comes back to people, it's the counties that have the most power. And so
we have 254 counties here
on the border. Oh no, just no
in Texas.
Total. Oh wow.
Texas, yeah, we are huge.
Which is a mammoth job. So
Anybody
everyone
want to come to Texas?
right? We'll be over next week. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. That was beautiful.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay. So yeah, it's really going to take all of us. It's a big job. And so it really takes everyone doing their part to really come together. So yeah, for the power to come back to people, the people have to be in charge. And so that takes everyone correcting their status and coming back to their birthright to gain that status and standing to actually initiate some change. And so that's the big point here. So thank you, Carrie. All right. So Craig. So Craig, if you're on, buddy. So Craig is basically my mentor on this. He's the guy that helped me correct my status. So he did my paperwork. And so he's been such a good friend and mentor, and he's retired Air Force, and he's also used to be a pastor as well. So we've had some really great conversations about where we're going and what we're doing right now. So yeah, definitely have a lot of respect and honored to be called one of his friends. So Craig, if you want to just share your story, please, buddy, that'd be great.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, buddy.
Okay. I look across the faces and the names here, and I know so many of you, if not by face, in person, or by name at least. And I'm looking forward to getting to know more of you as well. My story started back in 2021. You guys all heard about January 6th, right? I wasn't part of that, but after January 6th happened, January 7th rolled around, and we didn't get our country back, and we didn't get Trump in office, and we didn't get all the things that I had been campaigning for a year and a half. And I just kind of threw my hands up and realized it doesn't matter what I believe, what I have to say, who I vote for, because it's all rigged. And that day, January 7th, I got on the internet and started searching for answers, and I ran across a name that I had seen back in the 90s. It was a very distinctive name, and it was associated with my brother and sister-in-law who were trying to figure out how not to pay their taxes. And that name was Anna von Reisinger. It stuck with me, and I pursued the links, and that was January 7th of 2021. March, my wife and I both recorded our paperwork and changed our status. And the day we recorded, we told our recording secretary, we want to do what you're doing because we want to help everyone become Americans again. And from that day till now, we've not only become state recording secretaries here in Nevada, but we're also both Federation recording secretaries. So we have the ability through other state coordinators to be able to record people. And I think that's where I came to know Carrie and a few others here that have crossed my path. And I'm so thankful that we've had this opportunity to start making things right again. The Air Force, my wife and I met in 1980. We've been married going on 41 years. And after meeting there and starting our life together in 84, we've just been kind of looking for answers to make our lives good. And we fought in the war for the things we valued, and we thought we were, told. Go ahead, Aaron. Oh, you need something? I'm sorry, picking up hand signals. Anyway, so when we came over to the assemblies, we've been here for now 3.5 years, and we are both, my wife and I, Michelle, we're both co-facilitators here in Clark County, Nevada, which encompasses Las Vegas and Mesquite and a few other smaller towns. And we are also Nevada State Recording Secretaries, Federation Recording Secretaries. My wife is the treasurer of our Nevada State Assembly. And recently, a few months back, I had some health concerns, so I stepped down from being justice of the Supreme Court here in Nevada. And after this last week, I've had some reconsiderations. I may see about stepping back into it, but we'll see. Aaron understands, because I think all the people on this call are kind of cut from the same cloth. We see a need and we want to fill it, and we need to get things done as quickly as possible, so that we can all end up on a beach reminiscing about the day we came in and the things that we've done, sipping my favorite Moscato, and just telling the story of our history and having it scribed by someone we're paying exorbitant amounts of money to do so. That's kind of my dream, and I'm looking forward to that day coming. But whatever we have here in Nevada and across the other 49 assemblies, I'm doing everything I can to help, and my wife as well. And I'll tell you, from the moment that Aaron and Katya and I met, there was a bond there that I felt. And I'll tell you what, I said it a lot when I was in the Air Force. I would die on any hill for my brothers in arms, but those two right here, I'll tell you, I would die for. And I love them and their kids, and consequently, I love you guys too, because you're associated with them. So I know how you must be as well, and who you must be. So I think I'll just end it there for now, but I'll be happy to answer questions as this podcast goes on. So thanks, Aaron, and we'll stand by.
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, right there. Same too, brother. Yeah, I feel exact same way about you. Don't make me teary, okay? Gotta be manly over here.
Yeah, you can't see the tears through my glasses, but I'm not going to take them off. Let me just add one quick thing here, Aaron. Quinn had mentioned this, and a few others I think are alluding to this. Everybody's going to come to us in time, and there's a saying that I latched on 2 years ago. It goes like this: a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So we don't need to force anybody to believe what we believe. We just need to lay out the truth to them, and when they're ready, we need to step in and help them. So I'll yield with that.
Thank you so much, Craig. Beautiful words. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So good. I love it. Love it. Okay. So our last guest for today is Laura Kelsey. So I've known Laura and her family for, it's been over we've almost met when I first moved to America, like 13 years ago, maybe. So yeah, she's a really good friend, and she's fire as anything. She's a performer here in Vegas, so she's exceptionally beautiful. So, but she's intelligent, and she knows what she wants. She goes after it with everything she has. So, you know, I respect her so much. I love her. She's in our life a lot. I'm actually starting to train her to be a recording secretary. So, yeah, she's going to be, yes, a weapon. So, Laura, if you want to jump on and share your experience, your story, that'd be great.
Can everyone hear me? We're good? Cool. Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. Yeah, I'm Laura. I've been a state national for almost a year. It was around October, I think. My process went pretty smooth. This being brave enough to go through this process does require you to step into your full power. And that's my only warning, is like, if you're not ready for that, actually, if you're not really ready for that, I would still say do it, because it puts the pressure on you to fully step in your power, which is what we're here for, right? We're not here to be like scared slaves. That's not what I came to this planet for. So, like, even my driver's license went really well. They just called over a manager. It was fine. I had a small hiccup with getting my passport. And I love this story because they I sent in all my paperwork, and then they send me a letter back that they're like, you know, you can't have a US passport if you're not a US citizen. And so I was like, Aaron, Dad, you're mean to me. And so Aaron wrote up, he gets all fired and wrote up a little letter that said pretty much like, I'm not a 14th Amendment slave, bam. And then like without any, they just didn't say anything. They just sent me my passport. It was so great. And that was really like the moment I was like, wow, they really use fear tactics to try to intimidate us. But at the end of the day, we are in the right. We know the people have figured it out. So I don't know. I don't think I could have gone through this process without Aaron. He really knows his stuff. It's so amazing to have someone like that in your corner. So I would highly suggest working with Aaron. But if you're smart enough to do it on your own, good for you. And yeah, I don't know. Now I have the same fire in me. Once you start going through this, you realize how important it is, like, for humanity. And what an honor it is to be on the forefront of this movement, you know. And already, like, even in a year, there's so many people like that are doing this, even in Las Vegas after me. It's like when we first started talking about it, no one had heard about it. And I kind of feel like the whole Vegas community knows now, or at least have like, oh, I've heard that term. So yeah, we might run into some hiccups, you know. That's part of being this like first crew of warriors. We're coming in, we're educating people with love, we're standing up for ourselves, we educate ourselves, we know our rights, and that's our purpose, right? Someone's got to do this, you know. And it already has gotten so much easier in a year, and like the movement is growing so fast. So many people are being attracted to this, and it's just going to continue to be easier as we grow stronger and in larger groups. So if you would like to have the absolute honor of being in the forefront, please join us. It's a lot of fear will come up, a lot of slavery codes will come up, and it's a great way to alchemize that and step into your power. So yeah, hell yeah.
Awesome, Laura. Awesome. So good. Thank you so much for sharing. Love you. You're awesome. Okay. All right. So now, yeah, that's all the guests we have today. So I wanted to, you know, respect your time. So if you have questions, you would like to ask some questions, yeah, if you're on Zoom, then raise your virtual hand, and then I'll call you out, and you can unmute yourself and ask, and then we can have someone answer that, one of the four of us. or if you're on live and you want to ask a question about what that is, then yeah, just write it in the comments. So okay. All right, Katia, I know you have ready questions. Katia's my wife. She got a question from one of our friends who couldn't be on the call, so wanted to ask this one. So yes, Katia, unmute yourself, and what's the question?
Yes. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a friend of mine that is going to watch the replay asked me to please ask this question. So I'm just going to read the whole text. I have a friend who became an American national, and her daughter was taken away and given to her ex. She has not been able to work outside the system because the system loves the system and doesn't recognize her sovereignty. So I guess my main question is how to make sure the system recognizes your rights once you claim them.
Okay, so I mean, there's lots of information that can essentially that we need to know. But Craig, do you want to take this one, and then I can just tune in with some other stuff. But you can take this one if you want.
I'll do what I can. I've had this question a number of times, and I'm not sure I have the best answer for it. But the first thing I always tell people is you have to come to an understanding of who you're dealing with. These people don't care about us. They don't care about our lives. They don't care about our families. All they care about is money. And for them, when they steal children away from one parent or away from both parents, it's all about the money. So what they're likely hoping to do is to gain some access to either the father or mother's funds and cause turmoil and hopefully get them into a system of CPS or into some sort of jail system where they can draw bonds and money from. And so the downside of this whole situation, as many of the other situations we face, is that we don't have a clear-cut path, like do steps 1 through 4, and you are assured that you are going to get everything that you desire. When you're fighting a rigged system, it's very difficult to navigate those waters. However, with all that said, as Aaron pointed out, there's some information that we would need to know from the individuals and be able to craft a people-specific plan with the things that have happened and then press forward. It all begins with, and I don't know if she's an ASN. Did I miss that? She's an ASN? Okay, so if I'll just go on the premise that she isn't. If she isn't, she needs to do her political status change paperwork, the paperwork that most of us have done here, and get her status changed. That's number 1. Number 2 is to get her notice letter sent in after that. And then third is to start finding out as much as she can about what the court this case is in, and then begin fighting the battle of sending out notices to all the people involved. If the judge, she knows it, the prosecuting attorneys, the lawyers, all these people who are part of that bar system, and start putting them on notice that they need to relinquish rights of her property to her, or at least give her access to the child on a regular basis, to the son or daughter, I should say. And that's the beginning of this whole thing. Where it goes after those processes start playing out is, kind of anyone's guess. We don't have a silver bullet to fire and say, okay, you've been served and now I'm going to take everything back. And that's what we're hoping that everybody on this call and everybody listening to this call will understand. We don't need everybody in this country to become ASNs, but we need more than what we have to affect the change that will allow us to stand up as a Nevada court system, the common law court system, or Texas, or any other of the 50 states, to stand up and say, you cannot trespass against our people, and we will not allow it. And if you do so, it's going to go very badly with you. And badly, takes a lot of different forms. So I'll yield with that.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Yeah, we have to. Craig and I often joke about this. We don't quite have a big enough stick to hit him with yet. So And that is our common law courts. And we just need more people for that, essentially. And so, yeah, we just need to populate our state assemblies so that we can really hold the public employees' feet to the fire and have them, essentially pay remedy if they've trespassed against us. Yeah, we need a lot more information to really truly answer that question. And then the steps. There are steps, and we can essentially do liens on judges and things like that, so we can really hold their feet to the fire. If you have really noticed them beforehand and noticed them of the correction of status and that type of stuff, and that your son or daughter is your property, and so therefore they would be stealing someone else's property by taking your daughter away. And so, yeah, as living men and living women, that's where all the power is. And so it goes, and then our property is our sons and daughters until they turn the age of 21, then they become their own sovereign, right? But so that really has to be screamed out aloud and put in their face as much as possible. And then, it's still a bit of a gamble. I'll give you that, because we don't know. They're criminals. At the end of the day, they're white-collar criminals, and they're in for the money. So as long as you can kind of get at their bond, though, that lien is basically what we have to basically get at them, to basically hold them. Because once we get a lien on them and their bond, then they tend to wake up a little bit. So that's kind of our main action on that at present. All right. So, okay. So moving on, we had a couple of questions in the side here. Okay. Philip, okay, LLC, business owner, and then also Kim talking about business owners as well. Business owners with 2 LLCs. Okay. So debts. So I mean, as long with everything, you're always entering into contract. And so when you get a license, it's permission to do something that would otherwise be illegal. But so when you get a business license or a corporation license, you're essentially registering that entity as a federal entity, and the state becomes a third-party contractor in that entity. And so the only 3 things that have to pay tax is federal employees, federal dependents, or a federally regulated industry, which is ATF, alcohol, firearms, tobacco. So if you're none of those things, you shouldn't have to pay tax. So how they kind of catch you in these LLCs is they make you basically get a license, which kind of registers it as a federal entity. Therefore, you have to pay tax. Now, how you get out of that is they never gave you full disclosure of that. So because there's no full disclosure, then that contract is null and void. So you would first have to dissolve those corporations, and then essentially create your own private family business. And so anything taxed after that, you can kind of rebut the IRS. Like I've been doing a lot of conditional acceptances for the IRS lately for some big money on this type of things, and they really don't have a leg to stand on, because the whole tax code was never enacted into law. So they can't really do much. It's only you consenting to something that they're putting in a situation where they can have authority over you, and that's whether you basically lied. But if you haven't been given full disclosure, it's all null and void. So you can get out of those debts, I believe, in my research. You again, criminals, you might have some issues, but honestly, the IRS is the easiest thing to basically to really push back against, because they talk a big game, but they don't really have much to basically back it up. You got anything else to add to that, Craig?
Yeah, just one or two things here. I was just looking over here at the book that Anna had recommended called Investigating the Federal Income Tax by Joseph Bannister. And I can put that in the chat here. It's Investigating the Federal Income Tax by Joseph Bannister. He was the next criminal IRS agent and did criminal lens of the code. And he wrote a book because he got, when he got to a certain point in his career, he found out that most people that they're going after have no tax liability whatsoever. And so the day that he found that out was the day that his boss said, listen, you can either put your resignation letter on my desk, or we're going to send you to jail, something along those lines, immediately. And so he fought the system in courts for like 11, 12 years. And he has all the code that they state about why you shouldn't be paying federal income tax. And I joking, our sheriff, Keith, I've been putting it to him this way, saying there's a reason it's called federal income tax. Okay. And I put the emphasis that I've been putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable for a while. So now I'm putting it where it belongs, federal income tax. Okay. And that helps people to understand that if they don't have federal income, they pay no tax. Okay. And disability pay is not federal income, whether it's Social Security or it's disability pay like my wife and I received from the VA. Those are safe and secure because they owe us, and they won't welch on that contract. I think I'll just stop there for now. But yeah, anybody that's on the call that needs further, help, talk to the man. Send him an email or text, and he'll get the answers for you. I'll guarantee it. I yield.
Well, thank you, Greg. No, it's a battle, and we'll have to unite to basically fight these people. And so the more we shove it in their face, the better. So hopefully that answered your question, Phil and Kim, a little bit. We can, if you want to, we can definitely talk a lot more about that process, because I know, Kim, you have some businesses here that you have actually shops in Vegas that might need to be just finessed in your situation, based on how you're renting those places, or if and so there might be things that they're asking for that we might have to work around. So but we can definitely dig into that. Okay, so moving down to Mark. Your children your property if they have if they have the children? Are your children your property if they have with a birth certificate? We need to be correct. No, okay. Baby deeds. I think we're talking about baby deeds, right? Yeah. So with the birth certificate, how you rebut that that contract of essentially you giving that to your child's estate is a baby deed. And so that's part of the paperwork for your children. It's literally like when we first did our paperwork, I was deep into this. And then we finished all paperwork and I said to Cardi, I'm like, just sign here. It's like, what is this? I've said, if you do not sign here, they can take our children away from us. She said, okay, and signed it, and then just trust me, so respect to my wife for believing me and my craziness. But in actual fact, that baby deed is a very powerful document. And I know of a lot of people across the country have used that baby deed for themselves in court and got a lot of different stuff. So it has immense power. It's really establishing the fact that your son or daughter was born on the land of that state. And so, by two living people, a living man, living woman. And so no other presumption can be made on that situation. Because of that, then that kind of trumps any other contract that's coming to being, like the registration of the birth certificate. I think that's what you mean, Mark. And so your children don't have to correct their status until they turn the age of 21. So once you do the baby deed, you have reclaimed them, and they're your property until they turn 21, and then they would have to correct their status the same way you have done in becoming American State National. Okay. And Brianna, do any questions over here? No. Okay, I got Kim's question. Okay, no questions there. All right, sweet. So Brianna, with example Carter gave, even though the mother corrected her status and had the child baby deed, I'm assuming, the other parent or CPS took the child. The other parent So we don't actually know if she corrected her status properly and that she even did a baby deed, Brianna. So we're unsure about that, because I'm assuming if she did and she noticed these people in doing so, it would be a lot more difficult for that to actually happen. Because, you know, even though they like to ignore it, there are some big red flags that they know to look out for. And so one of those things is basically becoming, you know, actual American State National properly. But there's just because there's lots of different ways to do this doesn't mean you're going to have the most authentic sovereignty you can, because not everyone does the paperwork the way the American State Nationals do it. They still use a lot of the system to basically ask for permission. Because of that, they still kind of have one foot in the system. They might have the cheat codes for it, but they're still kind of in. So that means they're not completely safe. So again, we would need more information to really answer that. Yes. Anyway, okay. I think that's, oh, wait. Oh, wait a few. Okay. Quinn, your hand's raised, buddy. Sorry, buddy. I just seen that now.
No apology needed, man. You're working. My question is for people who have already corrected, like Laura, I hear you're studying underneath Aaron. Carrie, it sounds like you're doing a lot in Texas and stuff. What are smaller things that, you know, with my current schedule, or even this anyone who are busy and doesn't have the capacity right now to dive deep into like what you guys are doing, what are other things that we can do to help like within the assembly, within our state?
Carrie, you want to take this one?
There it is. Okay. Zoom is a little bit different than the WebEx. What are things that people can do in their assemblies to help out? Committees. And one really good committee to create or join is a litigation committee, where we are sussing out what they think the law is versus what the law really is. Because here's the thing about these LEOs, law enforcement, policy enforcement, cops, you know, whatever you call them, the court clerks, the city people that, you know, at the tag office, or, you know, anywhere that you encounter someone that wants you to sign your name as a US citizen or wants you to identify yourself as a US citizen, they don't know. They are untrained, they are uneducated. Even, it seems that even the bar attorneys don't know anything about common law. They're woefully ignorant and untrained. And it's been that way for 6 generations. And these people just look at you like you have 2 heads. You know, so it's like Aaron was saying earlier, it takes us throwing it in their face, you know, presenting them with these, you know, with the truth, with, you know, and educating them. It seems like it's on us to educate them because they just don't know. You're dealing with people that just don't know. So until they start to see these situations come up more and more and more, we're going to be dealing with some really ignorant folk. So again, how can you help out on your assembly? Litigation committee. Learn what they think the statutes and codes are that they're supposed to hold you to, that you're supposed to abide by, and how to speak to that, you know, in the truth, and how to help each other get out of court situations. We have a number of people in Texas, you know, dealing with, like I said earlier, you know, getting taken to jail for, quote, fictitious tags. You know, those are not even jailable offenses. And so Texas is very unfriendly to ASNs. And so we're having to deal with that. And a lot of us have had to make the decision, do I want to even put ASN tags on my vehicle yet, on my automobile? But yeah, I think that's one of the most useful ways that people can help out on the assembly. Just get involved in a committee, find an area that you think that you can help with, or an area that interests you, and you know, just take it and run with it. Take the lead somewhere, because there's just so much to learn and so much to do and so much to teach others. create marketing and outreach, postcards. We're putting together a booth at a gun show in November. I think that's coming up. So we're going to be using Assembly money to fund things like that, getting out and, as groups and talking to people. And with that, I yield. It's a great question.
Thanks, Carrie. So yeah, anything else to add, Craig?
What Carrie said at the tail end of her talk there was outreach. The biggest thing that we need across all 50 assemblies is we need people that will go out. I was looking around for a business card here to create handouts and just talk to people. I use one that I came up with a while back. It's, don't know how to fix our country, we do, and our nevadaassembly.org website. Got a peace flag in the background. And I hand it out every opportunity I have, when somebody's complaining, when I'm standing in line somewhere and somebody's complaining about, taxes or the economy and stuff. Awesome. I would love, Carrie, if you could send that to me or Aaron, and because we're always looking for great materials. But Quinn, yeah, we need people that will just talk this up at every opportunity and just give them Aaron's email, his text, information, mine, Katya's, whoever, and just help people to become aware of us, because the more they become aware, the more that are going to join, and the more help, good help, like the ones on this call, we're going to have good help coming into the assemblies. That's going to make our lives easier and not wear us down so much. So, yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
Awesome.
Okay, so all right. So we have a question in the side here. So Kim said, if you want to reside in 2 different states, do you have to do this in both states? The answer is no. Yeah. If you want to be a part of the assembly, then you have some of both states. It's going to be a bit difficult because every state is its own country, and so you would have to remain more in one than the other if you want to be a part of the assembly and help that way. But as a state national, you're free to go wherever you want in the 50 states, and you have all your rights, duties, and exemptions guaranteed. So yeah, so you're fine to do that. Okay, so Nicole said, so can a parent do a baby deed after the child has been taken and reclaim the child, and do they have permission from the other parent? Craig, you want to take that one?
Yes, they can, and no, they do not need permission. That child is their property as much as it is their spouse's or their, former spouse. They have every right to do what they deem necessary, and they have no need to talk to the other one about whether they've done a baby deed or not. It's not required. Just do what is in the best interest of your son or daughter, and put it on the public record. And as you need to, take it out and beat somebody over the head with it as they need it.
So good. I like that. Yeah. You got to remember, so when one parent claims they're living, the other parent is still dead. Like there's still a corporation, a corporate franchise. So a corporate franchise cannot have a son or daughter. They can have another corporate franchise. So when you step into that status and standing as a living man or woman when you correct your status, then you have the right to reclaim your children. Yeah, and so that baby deed will do that. All right, Carrie, what do you have?
I was just going to add to what you said about Kim's question about living in 2 states. It's my understanding that you'll have a primary home, and because we have a home in Alabama, and we have a home in Texas, and we're not in the Alabama Assembly, we're on Texas Assembly because we're primarily here in Texas. And if you move to another state, you have to live there for a year and a day before you can be involved in the assembly. Isn't that right? So hopefully that adds a little bit more. That's all I had for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, Katie, I see your hands raised. What's your question?
You guys, this is so awesome. I'm so grateful that you hosted and everyone is given so much good information. My question is, okay, so I'm hearing correct your status, get involved in the assembly, continue educating yourself. What are, beyond those first initial steps, what are the other steps you guys have taken to unplug from the system? Like in my mind, I'm grateful for the questions about the business because I've got a LLC and like I've got a mortgage. Is there activity you do related to your mortgage loan and like other financial things that you've got? I'm just curious, like where else this kind of, if there's kind of like a mind map of, okay, here's Katie, and then what are all the areas that I start unplugging from? I would love to hear like what else beyond the initial steps. What are the possibilities?
Okay, Craig, you want to start off with this one? And I'll join in.
Do you know how you eat an elephant, Katie?
One bite at a time.
That's right. Okay. So I tell most people I record this very thing. Number one, figure out how much risk you're willing to assume, knowing that they don't know who you have become, and they're willing to go to any lengths to continue their nefarious activities. I always joke with people and say, I can't build the assembly from jail. I'm very risk averse. And so I do the things that I feel most comfortable with, and that aren't costly to me because I'm focused literally almost 24/7 on assembly work. So those are the main things. And then as you learn more about the fraud and the various areas that it touches your life, then you can start doing research on each area, whatever interests you the most. Then just dive in and start going to the deepest depths you can with that till you get stuck and you need somebody's help, or you realize, you know what, I have all the steps I need to do this when the day comes, but I'm not willing to do that yet. You know, things like that. Or, hey, I'm willing to put it all out there and to let it fly in the wind. And, you know, I know what I need to know. I know who I am. And, you know, if they come and approach me, I know exactly what I'm going to tell them, you know, and I know exactly the steps that I need to take to avoid their consequences for my free actions, you know. So I'll yield with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that a little bit as well. So, you know, as you learn more, you're more likely to kick the bear, as I like to say. And so I've been kicking it pretty hard for a little while because some of us just because we had no choice, but then some necessity for everyone. And so, you know, we've been dealing with courts and summons and stuff for credit cards and things like that. And so knowing that scope, you could really go in deep that way. But, you know, you have to know the consequences. Okay, I might have a bit of bad credit for a while, but now I'm going after credit bureaus. So there's ways to it all. So you can like house home, like you get your house in order. So that means, you know, stop paying tax, get your private trade, family private trade business going. And then make sure you've claimed everything, all your children that. If you still have a mortgage, that's fine. Just keep paying that. The whole property tax thing is a minefield. Okay. But you can, once you own your property outright while it's in their system, then you can reclaim the chain of title back to the land deed or land patent and then rename it in their system and essentially taking it out of their jurisdiction completely. Okay. That's a whole process, but that's a lot of people doing that. But it's kind of still a very corrupt system because they get kickbacks on foreclosures and stuff. The judge, like with land, it's big money for judges and people are taking off other people. So, and then you start looking at the traveling side of things. So your right to travel. So, you know, canceling your driver's license contract, non-US citizen, and then get your private tags. But again, you're dealing with police officers, LEOs. So knowing what to say to them is kind of a big thing. But once you kind of start chipping away at that, then you're kind of free after that. So it's not much more, yeah? So it's just understanding in any situation, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to say? And then that gives you the confidence just to work through your life. But you'll find as you go on this freedom journey, you tend to not attract as much as you would when you're still in the system. So it's just like a weight gets lifted off your shoulder, and you tend to not run into things anymore, which I've noticed, unless you need to for your own journey. But yeah, so hopefully that helps.
Can I ask a really quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
I'm hearing in both of the ways that you guys are talking about it, and somebody kind of clued me into this a few months ago. Somebody shared with me that, like, if you go down this path, it's like you have to embody the intention of why you're even choosing. Like, it's not just a matter of like showing up to court and like doing documents and whatever. It's like, he was kind of like, you've got to become this sovereign person. And I hear you talking about like, it's time to take responsibility. It's time to own it. And then some of the other languaging you guys have been using in your answer to my question. So I'm curious, I would just love kind of your perspective on that real quick.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things to take into account. Everyone has to realize that we have essentially slave coding in our DNA that goes back to, well, if you're in that type of Anunnaki, like we're going we've always been this kind of slave race. And so that's kind of been perpetuated throughout history. And so when you go like basically take back your freedom, it's energetically, when we talk about energy, it's massive. It's already a massive feat, because you're literally breaking free of a prison you didn't know you're in for all of eternity, like, well, Earth years anyway. So that's a big step. And so therefore, once you're kind of out of the system, you're not necessarily attracting any that slavery stuff coming back into your life as much. But I think what he's really talking about is when you correct your status properly, you become essentially sovereign in its most purest form, which is you are a king or queen in your own right. And so as a king or queen, I say this a lot, as a queen, I'm like, would you ask them for permission? As a queen, would you just let them run over you and just do whatever they want to you? You know, as a queen, would you have someone else speak for you? So I think that's what he's more talking about. Yeah. In your highest status and standing, how would you act if you didn't have to speak, answer to anyone but God himself?
That makes sense.
Yes. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
You're most welcome. Good questions. Okay, let me see if I got any more questions here. I think we're good there. Okay, any other questions? I think, oh, wait, here we go. Tamara, you snuck in. Okay, if you're married and only one of you is a national, how would that work with taxes? Craig, you can take this one.
Okay, so the big thing that gets wrapped up into the whole marriage issue, which we're not going to dive into at this point, is when you get married, you get to claim that special exemption of married filing jointly. So you have several options here. One is you could basically either annul or separate yourself from the marriage and stand alone as an ASN, and your husband, I guess it is, would be standing on his own, in which case he would be paying more taxes, and likely the IRS would try to figure out how much you have been making and try to tax you for that too. Only they take it out of his paycheck. I've heard of that happening. And it's nefarious. It's wrong. And so that's one avenue. The other avenue is that you can petition your employer, to not have taxes taken out of your paycheck if you're working, and follow that strain of freedom, and then just not file. But here's one thing that you probably, until you get this resolved in your head and actions, is know that if you file your IRS revocation letters to revoke your paying of taxes, that if you go ahead and send in another 1040 after that, you're basically committing perjury, because you've told them through your status change and your notice letter that you don't owe taxes, and then you're putting yourself back in their system and saying, oh, wait a minute, but I owe taxes, and here's my 1040 form, and here's my payment, or here's the refund I expect back, and things like that. So my first thing would be to see if there's any way that he would sit down and talk with one of us, and listen to what's being said, and possibly convert, if you want to use that term. But if he's dead set against it, she's her own person too, and she can make the choice to not file or not have her name put on his tax forms. And the unfortunate thing is I've heard that end badly for a few couples. The fortunate thing is that I've heard also from several other couples that when they stood up to their spouse said, wow, if you feel that strongly about this, I need to take another look. And so you'll have to search out and figure out what you're willing to risk, and with counsel from your assembly, to sit down and spell out some details, and all of us sit down, your assembly, I should say, sit down and talk with your husband and say, here's what your wife is doing and what she's attempting for your benefit, and can we find some common ground that we can move forward in for your benefit and her benefit and your family and everybody concerned. So I think I'll stay with that for right now.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. That's awesome. Okay. I think that's it. I'm not getting anything else. So I want to respect everyone's time. That's a good chunk. That was a good chunk. Well done, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you coming on and sharing and ask your questions. I think this might be beneficial for a lot of people. So that makes me happy. If you need help, if you need to point in the right direction, reach out to me on whatever platform that you can. And so, yeah, if you're on here, generally have something to reach out to me, and then I can point you in the right direction. Okay, it's all about is bringing as many people home as we possibly can, because then we can actually start populating our assemblies and bringing a better new earth for our children. So that's the main thing. So thank you so much. Love to you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay.